All right, everybody, welcome to our first episode of the ECL review or preview or whatever we're going to name it in the future. But will be hosted by myself, Ornlu, and Roach. So,
Hey
yeah,
guys.
Roach, why don't you go introduce yourself?
Well, welcome everyone to this podcast. For anyone who doesn't know me, I'm actually kind of pretty active in the community for around 2 years now. I'm playing a lot and in the Twitch chat as well, but probably most well known for my unpronounceable name, I guess. Yeah, Roach, exactly. And actually, for anyone who doesn't know yet, so we get it out of the way, it's actually pronounced Roechelrochen, but we'll stick with Roach from now on.
Oh, yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Yep,
Yeah,
probably the better idea here.
yeah, I'll
Okay, we have some
lower
sound
Roach's
level
volume.
issues here.
Hopefully that sounds good. So yeah, this is going to be an ECL themed podcast, obviously. The goal is to have one before each different geographic region or stage, one in between the two tournaments in each stage. So that would be this one, and then one after the last tournament within a stage. So ideally, we're going to be having these 2 to 3 times a month. And in case you guys don't know me, I am Ornlu. I am a caster, streamer, dude. I've cast here on Escape a few times, and I'm just generally around. So thanks to everyone for tuning in. And I think that without further ado, we can just jump right in. We're gonna talk about the most recent Middle East 1v1 tournament, and then the upcoming 3v3 tournament. So let's talk about the last tournament.
All right, kind of an interesting result there already. I guess not a lot of people would have expected Bagdi to win the whole thing in the end. Really important points for VNA, obviously. They are in the mid part of the standings at the moment, so getting first here is really important and a pretty impressive play by him.
Yeah, definitely. It's, I think, a result that not a lot of people would have expected, even if Viper isn't in, the 1v1 tournament and that kind of frees up everything else. But, I mean, obviously there were so many strong players here: Nikov, Tato, all the Chinese players, Leary, of course. And, out of everyone else, it's the old timer backed taking it.
Yeah, and especially still having the Tyrant tag in front of his name, actually, while playing. So Tyrant member beating the secret member Tato
Oh, yeah,
there.
Tyrant greater than Secret, easy. But yeah, I think that it's a really important victory for VNA. And we can just switch over to the standings while we're at it. And as you guys can see here, VNA definitely wanted those Pointerinos because they brought themselves all the way to fourth place, but it's a distant fourth place. What do you think of these standings, Roach?
It's pretty interesting. We have basically three parts here. So we have the whole leading part of the standings, with Secret, SY, and Frantic, and then like midfield with VNA and Aftermath, and then all the way back Somi, Brazucas, and Heresy at the moment. So we have some favorites at the moment, but obviously the tournament isn't done yet, and there's lots of points to take still. So especially VNA and Aftermath can still do a lot, and they are now in hitting distance to Frantic and SY at least.
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting how you kind of have like Secret way out in front, 28 points. Like they're just doing so well. They've won 3 tournaments so far and even gotten a second place in there. And you kind of have SY and Frantic, the two Chinese teams, like right, neck and neck, very close to each other. Frantic hasn't yet won a tournament, but 3 second places. Pretty good for them. And as you guys can see, those points are quite far ahead of everyone else. And then you have VNA and AM, kind of the two mid-table teams. I know that VNA doing so well probably surprises maybe some people who aren't as familiar with them, but they've been around in the community forever. They've been playing together forever, and they've been surprisingly consistent throughout a lot of ECL so far. And then AM, I think a lot of people were expecting more from, considering they have such, star power in their roster, but they really haven't turned it up just yet. Think about that,
For
Roche.
sure. I mean, just as an example, the last event, right? The 1v1 event, we had Tim beating Leary 2-0, and that's surely something that most of the people didn't expect. Maybe a 2-1, best of three, everything can go right. But 2-0 and in quite an impressive manner as well. So Aftermath, just not the performance everyone expected yet, especially after Boar and how like the individuals players were um, in performing in King of the Desert, for example, last year.
Yeah, and of course, all four members of AM are, or I guess five now with Hera, are very sort of consistent, strong ladder performers as well. Like I think all of them are in the top 10 of the 1v1 ladder right now. And yes, Nikov
Yep.
did okay. I mean, he just barely missed out on the finals, losing 2-3 to Tato in the semifinals. But again, when you're fielding Nikov and Leary in a 1v1 event, I feel like you kind of expect more than, you know, a round of 8 and a round of 4 finish, don't you think?
Oh, for sure, especially if you don't have the Viper playing, you don't have Doubt playing, and Yo going out in the first round. So, well, yeah, Leary definitely was hoping for more there, and that can't be denied. But yeah, as you said, Nico getting to the semifinals, close games there against Tato actually, a really nice series as well. And well, yeah, um, Nikov getting important points for them at least, but well, winning the whole thing would have obviously been better. We see that Aftermath so far hasn't gotten a first place yet. Kind of hard when Secret wins most of the tournaments so far, three of the five, but still, I mean, they will want to get better results in the future there.
Yeah, certainly. And I think, it is still worth talking about what's going on with Suomi and Brazucas, formerly known as LOS, of course. And those two teams are at 6 and 7. And as the two Nations Cup finalists, I feel like a lot of people had grand hopes for this team that really haven't come through.
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously we have lots of really strong teams here, but before ECL started here, probably you would have expected Suomi and Brazucas to be a lot higher, and then Frantic and VNA being lower than them, for example. And it's really interesting to why that is. Maybe it's because Wallow Kingdoms is now played on ECL, and we had for example, the Suomi players joined in later on, at least in the 1v1 games with Wololo Kingdoms. And Nations Cup last year was not Wololo Kingdoms yet, and they were still playing on AOC back then, so very experienced. But I'm not sure what else do you think could be the reason they are that far back at the moment.
I think that in looking at their games, and I have cast almost all of the ECL games from every stage so far. I
Hmm.
think that Suomi kind of lacks necessary, like, I don't know if you can call it like killer instinct, but I feel like they're just so passive and they're always wanting to, sit back, boom up, get to, a larger army, later stage of the game. And yes, their coordination is very good, but I feel like it gives teams a lot of room to either boom up against them or try and break them early. And I feel like that's kind of been a little bit exploitable. I think we've seen that in a lot of their games so far. And as far as Brazucas goes, uh, I feel like they've just kind of fallen short. Like they just have honestly looked a little bit worse in terms of overall level of play and coordination, all that important stuff that you need in a team game as well as the 1v1s. And I'm not sure if that just goes to how much they're practicing or anything like that, but I think definitely these two teams are going to be looking to get some points in the future. And I think that, as you mentioned, all of these teams are just so close that it can really easily go from, oh, I'm going to get really far in one tournament to losing in the round of 16 in a 1v1. So I think there's always going to be that distinction.
Yeah. And I think you made a really good point with Suomi usually having really good coordination in late game. They want to get to late game. They're definitely a team that prefers or thrives in the late game scenario. We saw them in Nations Cup have um, a prepared home map, and that was Black Forest. And they played a lot of Black Forest, and it was most of the time a win for them. And then in Battle of Africa, they also preferred the more closed off maps. I forgot the name exactly for the one map that is kind of Black Forest like, but had the shallows in between them.
Donut.
Suomi usually picked that and was performing really well on that as well. So I think that's maybe one point that in ECL we don't have that closed off maps. It's more open type, aggressive kind of styles. And that might have played a role actually. And then Brazucas, yeah, maybe the motivation wasn't there, but let's see how they will do in the next event because we just had Fire performing really, really well in the NEC 2 qualifier. He had best of 7 yesterday against Winchester and won 4-1 in the end in a really impressive manner, really clean victories as well.
Yeah,
So,
I saw
well,
some of those
maybe I have
games.
hope for the future for them.
Yeah, I think we're gonna definitely, I think, look to Fire more than any other player for Bazookas in the future, as far as who's gonna turn it up and really show that super high level of play that we're kind of needing here in ECL. But uh, anything else as far as the previous tournament before we move on to our favorite games from the 1v1 tournament?
Mm, I don't have anything at the moment. I guess if we look at the standings, we haven't talked about Heresy yet.
Oh,
They
yeah.
are in the last place. I mean, it's not surprising to everyone, but let's see. I mean, they showed that they can take games and they can take points, and especially Matthias could go further in 1v1 parts and maybe 2v2s and 3v3s. They might have some chances to take some points away, and that maybe take some points away of teams that will later need the points to decide who will be first, who will be second, for example, and go to the LAN. So it might be really interesting there
Yeah, I
what
think
they
that
will come up with.
uh, yeah, as Fire Nation is saying in chat, the fact that Heresy lost Hera, I feel like they really sort of lack that super high level star caliber player. I mean,
Hmm.
who do you have then next? Matthias? And, Matthias is very good, but is he 2K6 level good? I'm not really sure yet.
Yeah. Well, I don't think at the moment, at least not consistently. He can sometimes play really good, but then we've seen also in the NAC qualifier that he dropped out really fast, went to the losers bracket really fast and got kicked out there as well. But I mean, one thing we have to talk about, obviously, that Neely is now part of Heresy.
Oh, yes.
And that can be interesting. Let's see how much he will actually play in future events and what he will bring to the table. I think he will help them a lot, like developing strategies, specific picks, map drafts, etc. So I'm looking forward to see what changes he will bring to the team.
Yeah, it's always interesting whenever the hippo himself is involved. Uh, but yeah, I think it should be good. I think that all of these teams still have the potential to take games off of one another, and I think that's really important
Yeah.
to underscore. Is that yes, the standings might not look close, but I think that just in watching the games in sort of a qualitative perspective, everything looks pretty close in terms of the games. You really don't see that many like straight up blowouts.
Yep. Yeah, and it's really important for a tournament that lasts a year, right? If we just had clear victories and very easy to predict matches from the start to finish, then everyone will lose interest. But so far, we have some really interesting matches coming up.
Yeah,
And I guess that's a good transition to talk about the matches.
seamless segue. So what we did is we picked three of our favorite games from the Middle East 1v1, and we're just gonna talk about them a little bit. And I will put up little. clip thing. Oh God, why is it not working?
He's probably going to make one
Oh,
fire.
there we go.
He's probably
There we
going
go.
to make
Got it.
one fire galley all.
Wonderful.
Sorry guys. The
Oh, he's doing a galley. Okay,
no,
one fire
this
galley.
This technology, but we're
Hey,
we're
you
getting
forgot
there.
what version of the game
Anyway,
he was playing. For a
as you
second.
can see on your screen,
You were getting
from
also surprised,
the
right, when you
first
saw
game
that
on
galley,
top
like,
is
oh.
Yeah,
Tim
yeah,
versus Leary on
I was like looking at
Mediterranean.
it like
I
at
had
the same time you were
pleasure
like,
of
what?
passing this game.
Wow, a stable
with
man,
Matt
not even
here on
archers. He's
Escape.
going to scout
And,
already. That's amazing.
yeah,
He's
what
just
do
going
you
full
think
aggro
of this game?
on land. And let's see reaction from
Really
Leary.
interesting from
do
the
you think
get-go.
Leary might expect this?
Right, you have Mediterranean coming up, and
checking
then
Leary's
I think you
POV,
and Matt
he
were
has not
talking
scouted
about it,
anything
what
of the water
you,
just yet.
what
Makes
city you
sense.
would
You don't really
expect,
want
and
to use
everyone
your fishing chips
expects
for
the
that on
Italian
this
mirror
map.
here.
But
Have Italian
I
in the
think
Civ pool,
at
you
the
can pick
point
them.
when Leary
So
sees
it's
only
a
one
clear
fire
choice.
galley,
But then
he's
Tim
gonna know
already
something's up.
picks
The problem
Mongols
is Tim already
right
has
away.
the stable up.
And you might expect him to maybe go for some kind of land aggression, but then he actually built a dock and started to go for water at the start, and Leary got tricked. And then Tim actually went for the land aggression and went full. Oh, the clip is still out. Okay.
I couldn't even hear the clip, so that's pretty awkward. But you know what? We'll just get rid of the clip for now. It's all good. It's all good. It's a learning experience.
Well, yeah, and as I said, we had a full feudal coming in, pressure on Leary, and very interesting as I said from the get-go, very different strategies there.
Yeah, definitely. There was the whole thing with Mongols coming in here for Tim. Like, it was the only time that we couldn't see an Italian mirror on Mediterranean. It was pretty crazy. And then the whole land aggression, totally making what's it called? Like, totally ignoring water is just so unconventional for Mediterranean, and I definitely recommend giving that map a look if you haven't seen it yet.
Yep, went to Imperial as well, so definitely a longer game as well. It's worth a watch, definitely. Well, and then as the second game, we picked actually one of the games from the final and on Dry River. So what do you think of the map and, well, then to the game it led in the end?
Yeah, I'll just bring up the bracket so you can at least have a better idea of what we're talking about.
That's a good idea then.
Yeah, so the other game that another game that we want to talk about was Tato versus Backed on Dry River. I really like Dry River as a map. I think it's interesting because all of the little shorefish in the middle of the map sort of incentivize a lot of aggression because it's just so much food potential for you to gather. But as far as like actual player positions go, usually you spawn at least fairly far apart from one another. So there's definitely the potential for games to go very long. And oh man, Backed versus Tato on this map in the grand finals, it went long. It was an incredibly back and forth slugfest that ended up with one final push from one of the players, I won't spoil it, who was almost out of wood because the map was just out of wood. So it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, must have been incredible, exhausting to play that game. Incredibly exhausting. So there was so much going on, and it was not like that they boomed up and had the game going to Imperial Age, right? They were constantly fighting from Feudal Age onwards, and yeah, just an impressive job by both players, and yeah, led to a really good game there.
Yeah, definitely. That was a fantastic game. Do you think Tato should have resigned? I think that it was pretty over at that point. He had, I believe, the relics and a little bit more wood left, but he had just absolutely no army and no sort of momentum. Backed was camping all of his production, and I really think that Backed did deserve to win there.
Yeah, I think it was a good point to resign. He could have dragged it out longer, but I don't think there was any way for him to come back realistically.
Come back? Too easy. Uh, yeah, so then our third game also going back to Tim versus Larry. It was just a great series. The Hun War on Arabia, game number 2 for those guys was. I know a lot of people are kind of bored with Hun Wars. It's like, oh, been there, done that. But this was a pretty special Hun War, don't you think?
Oh yeah, everyone is always talking about how versatile Han wars are, but this game was extremely versatile. I think we've seen every land unit besides petards and scorpions in that game. Two completely different approaches. Tim going with the Chinese style, walling up, while Leary played really open, and it was so back and forth as well. Like the game before, it went really long, and it's definitely worth a watch. Really great game.
Yeah, it's really the sort of classic Chinese style of stone walls for Tim, just trying to defend, get up to a good economy, good army of knights versus Leary kind of playing like Viper back in like 2012,
Yeah.
2013. No walls, cav archers all day, just trying to out micro and pick apart his opponent. But man, it was just so back and forth.
Uh, do we actually? Well, we do actually have the bracket, so I guess we kind of have a spoiler for the games, but still, it's really worth it. Even if you know how the games turn out in the end, what result you will see. Yeah, just such high level gameplay. Um, with really interesting situations, and especially sometimes it's really interesting to know who will win, in my opinion, and then you see this player in a spot where you think this he has lost this. There's no way. How I know he will win, but how will he get out of that? So you can pay more attention to that, and I really enjoy that from time to time.
Oh yeah, I mean, again, I had the pleasure of casting this game here on Escape, and man, it was just so back and forth. Like Mem and I had no idea who was going to win at several points in the game, and yeah, it was just a real joy to cast. And with that, anything else you'd like to say about the 1v1 tournament before we move on to the upcoming 3v3 tournament that is apparently in 2 days and 21 hours?
No, I think yeah, I think I'm actually fine. I think we can take a look at the next tournament coming up.
So we'll go ahead and do that. We'll pull up the next bracket. Seamless transition. And
Wonderful.
yeah, so let's just go right ahead and start with Brazucas versus SY. I mean, Brazuca's really going to be looking for a win here, right?
Oh yeah, as we said before, they are not that well, really far back in the bracket, and they want to make points, and it will be hard against SY being second at the moment, and so they will have a hard time. But as I mentioned before, best of three, everything can happen, and Brazucas has the potential. It's a really good team on the paper, right? And they have the potential to win here and get important points. You need to win at least the first round to get some points in the semifinals, or for reaching the semifinals. So yeah, let's see what they can do. But I think SY in the end is still favored to win this.
Yeah, I kind of have to agree with that. It's just a matter of consistency, I think. I mean, Yo has been one of, if not the single most consistently good player in all of ECL. Obviously, like right up there with Viper,
Hmm.
and he's been playing with people like Lix and Paladin or Fengshin and Yinghua like for so long now, and they just really have, I think, that level of coordination as well as that sort of skill ceiling, and I think that they just have been a bit more consistent as far as this tournament goes.
Yeah, yeah. Basically, I think really impressive play by them. Maybe besides the final against Secret, there maybe they didn't play to their fullest potential.
Yeah, that
But
seemed kind of like an off day for them.
exactly. But I mean that can happen in the game, and we've seen them perform really well otherwise. So yeah, I think we have to favor SY here. Then for the next part of the first round, we have Frantic versus Heresy, and Frantic also, we mentioned it before, top of the bracket or the standings, and Heresy at the bottom. And I mean, Frantic is the clear favorite here.
Yeah, it's going to be, I think, a pretty steep uphill climb for Heresy,
Hmm.
particularly because it's Frantic in 3v3. And if you guys remember back to the Africa stage in the Africa 3v3 tournament, Frantic actually made it all the way to the grand finals. So, they barely lost out to Secret in the end, but I think it was pretty clear that the trio of CL plus Tim plus Vivi is pretty tough to take down.
Yeah, for sure, one of my favorite teams for this event to take the whole thing. Yeah, they played really impressively, as you said. Was just one decision in the last game of the 3v3 Africa event, and it could have gone the other way around, and Frantic would have had the win there.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So what do you think of the AM versus VNA games? You got the two middle of the table teams, teams 4 and 5 right now.
Super important. I mean, whoever wins this, the points they get from reaching semifinals basically count double because their direct opponent in the middle of the table won't get those points, right? While they will get them themselves. So really important and also the most even matchup, I think, in the first round here for this bracket. AM versus Vietnam Legends. Yeah, especially interesting, I think, is the impact that the 3v3 format will have. AM can easily play really strong in 2v2s and 4v4s as well. But I think VNA, for example, would drop off a bit in 4v4s, while 3v3s they still can perform well, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of can you have. Okay, so I think Backed and ACCM are kind of a lock in terms of players who are going to show up here for VNA. I think you can
Hmm.
they tend to switch between Cool and Say My Name or Yellow.
Yeah.
And I think it's just going to be a matter of can all three of those guys, play at the level that they need to, because I feel like they're just, despite their inconsistent performance, they've had consistent results, which seems kind of weird, but I feel like, especially against AM, they're going to need to make sure they're playing at their fullest potential.
Yep. Yeah, will be really interesting. I'm looking forward to see how Hera will be included in this. I I think that it's not that likely we will see him in many games, because, as we said, Vietnam Legends, tough opponent. Then, if you get to the semifinals, we will have Secret and Somi coming up. We already have like the four core players of AM with Nikov, Hart, Leary, and MBL. So let's see if we will see Hera play. But he's a strong player and he has really good potential as well. So maybe on some maps they will prefer him over some other players.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. Like, I feel like maybe Hera hasn't had the time to sort of incorporate himself into AM, uh,
Yeah.
to play just yet. Even if he is a very good player, AM is full of very good players, and I think
Hmm.
that more than perhaps any other game type, 3v3 requires the most high level of teamwork and coordination, because you really only have the one pocket that kind of has to split duties between both flanks, and if you sort of don't allocate your resources appropriately, you kind of get wrecked. So maybe not Hera in the 3v3, maybe in the 4v4s coming up though.
Yeah, I think 4v4s we will definitely see him. And also it will give them more time to train together, right? And practice together
Yeah,
and
exactly.
having become part of the whole thing. Well, then last matchup we have Secret versus Somi. That's a classic one as well, right?
Oh yeah, I mean these teams have faced each other several times before. Um, Under the Tyrant tag, of course, I think they've played each other twice in Battle of Africa, where
Yeah.
I believe Tyrant won both times. And yeah, I mean these are two teams that both really like going to the late game. Obviously, Secret has that sort of capacity to go full on aggression, but I think that players like Viper, Doubt, Tato, they all I think prefer getting up to the late game. And of course, as we were mentioning, Swomi likes to do the same thing. So these are usually pretty explosive games between these two teams.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and then it can come down to can come down to important, like who hits Imperial first and takes really good fight at the start. Um, but well, let's see. We have some interesting maps coming up as well for that, but we will. So let's see who will be favored, but we will talk about that later. I think in general, what we need to see of the bracket in the bracket again is, for example, that Secret and AM are once again in the same branch of the whole bracket on the same side, right? So they will meet at least if they both advance, that is, in the semifinals. And I think AM isn't too happy about that. We had them in quite a few of the previous stages facing Secret quite early. And sure, if you want to win a whole tournament, if you have like one single tournament and you want to win the whole thing, you have to win against every player, right? So it shouldn't really matter if you go up against them in the first round or in the second round. But this tournament, you're collecting points to get to the grand final. So getting to the semis or the finals and just getting one round further can make such huge difference, right? So who you face up is early on is actually really important.
Yeah, definitely. Hashtag blame Robo for all that. Always giving AM tough
Well,
opponents.
I should always blame Robo, right?
Oh yeah, that's just generally how that works out. But I think that really AM's going to be looking for a lot of wins here. I think they're one of those teams that yes, they're a little bit lower in the overall standings. They're fifth right now,
Yep.
but I can totally see them winning like three tournaments. In the upcoming half of ECL. So I definitely think there's still very much a potential spot for them in the grand finals.
Oh, for sure, yeah. I mean, that's, for example, something the standings don't take into account in when they dropped out against which team, right? And AM did drop out against Secret a couple of times. That is definitely a point where they, well, once maybe they don't drop out against Secret and take the whole thing, and then get to the finals and get the points. And suddenly they are a lot closer to all the other teams in the front as well.
Yeah, certainly, certainly. Um, so I guess Roach, it is time for predictions.
Okay,
We'll
you're
probably
going
have
to put
some.
me on the spot here.
Oh yeah, putting you on the spot. Uh, we'll probably for upcoming versions of this podcast, we'll have a better system for keeping track of how good Roach and I are at predicting stuff. But give it to me, Roach. Who do you think is going to win these matches?
Okay, so I think SY, as I said before, will win this, but 2-1, I think. Brazuca is still a really strong team, so they will take that. And the second match on this side of the bracket, Frantic 2-0 Heresy. What about you there?
I think that SY is actually going to 2-0 Bazookas. I haven't been super stunned by their performance recently, but of course,
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to see a close set of games, and I think that yeah, Frantic 2-0 over Heresy. Until we see Heresy really sort of step it up in these larger team games, I think that Frantic should just be a pretty clear favorite there.
Yeah. Well, then we have AM versus Vietnam Legends. I'm really not sure about this one. That gets really tricky, but I think that I have to go with AM here. Probably 2-1 as well, though.
AM. Ooh,
Yeah.
bold. What do you think gives them the edge?
Mm, well, just what we were talking about earlier, that they are usually very consistent compared to VNA maybe, and you do have backed in ACCM playing really strong, but you never know with Say My Name and Cool how strong they will perform that day. So I think that AM will take it, but it will be close game, so it won't be easy for them.
Yeah, certainly. Definitely. Definitely, I think should be really close. Though I think I might favor VNA, just because. Yeah, they've just been, I think, a little bit more consistent. Yeah, they're one place higher in the standings, but especially with Backed performing so well recently,
Oh yeah.
I think that might just put them over the edge over AM. But again, this should be, I think, probably our closest match of the round of eight. So with that, What do you think of our last quarterfinal match between Secret and
Mm.
Suomi?
2-0 for Secret there.
Just
I
right off
just
the
the
bat, just
same,
slamming
yeah,
down
just the
Suomi.
same thing you said before for Brazucas versus SY, that you're not too convinced at the moment about Suomi. That's just it for me. And Secret is playing really strong, and especially 3v3, I think they will. Also, they showed in Boa how they are able to do it. So I think 2-0 there for Secret.
I think that it's going to be Secret advancing as well, but I think it's actually going to be 2-1. I think that, if it does come to a full out, late game slugfest, I think
Hmm.
Suomi has demonstrated the skills and coordination needed to take down Secret, but it's like, can Suomi get there comfortably?
Yeah,
So I think they'll be able to snag, one game. Of course, it all depends on the map pool, which we unfortunately do not know as of yet. Well, we know the map pool,
yeah.
but we don't know the specific maps they're going to be playing in the that series, that best of three. But yeah, definitely going to say Secret 2-1 over Suomi.
I mean, what you just said brings up a memory of one game again, was Suomi against AM, right, on Serengeti, where everyone expected Suomi already to be dead. The trade was basically gone, or not their trade was gone, but AM was already in that trade line. And then they managed to come back and win the whole game. It was insane game on Serengeti. No one expected it to go that late game. So you're definitely right. If they manage to get late game, they have the skills and the communication to take games of every team. Not only to take games, but win series against every team here.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I also had the pleasure of casting that game here on Escape. I was casting with Nilly for that game, and oh man, that was, in my opinion, the best game I have ever seen, ever. Um, yeah, definitely
It
give that one a watch. If
definitely up there, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was just so close, so back and forth. Again, the map was running out of wood. Um, but yeah, I mean, ECL has really just had some amazing games so far. But Roach, gotta be decisive now. Who is going to
Yeah.
win this entire 3v3 tournament?
I'm I'm going to go a bit out of on Olympia and say that it will actually be Frantic winning the whole thing. They really impressed me how they played in the Africa 3v3 stage. So let's see if they can do it. If they can get to the finals, obviously, and then beat whoever is coming up against them. But I, I say it will be Frantic.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty solid guess. Honestly, I think a Frantic Secret Finals is possibly, a rematch from Africa 3v3 could be in our near future. And I do think it will be Frantic versus Secret in the finals, but I'm going to go with Secret pulling it out again because I am incredibly boring. And, Secret, they
Nothing
know how
you
to
can
win
do.
games. They know how to win games when it counts. They've just shown that level of consistency and high level of play.
Yeah, well, I guess that's it for our predictions, I guess. But I mean, we also want to look at the maps and the civilizations for this event. Usually we would do it in the first part of our podcast that is in front before that comes up before the whole stage, before the Middle Eastern stage. But because this is our first one today, we will look at the maps and civilizations for this now as well.
Yep, just going to set up the little things over here, a little bit of graphics that we have prepared. But yeah, first map in this map pool going to be Arabia, the good old tried and true standby, everybody's favorite map, even if they don't know it. What do you think this classic map will bring us in a 3v3 tournament?
Sorry you cut out there for a moment. I didn't get what you were saying.
Oh, sorry. So yeah, it's Arabia, classic map, and what do you think it's going to bring us in the 3v3 tournament?
Well, it's it's Raber, right? It always has the potential to bring us really great games. I think probably Arabia, everyone knows it, very, very open, or not very open, but it's an open land map, right? And players are really experienced on it. Everyone plays it all of the time on the ladder, the most played map. So I think that we won't see too many strange strategies coming up. So it will be mainly execution here. So I think that teams that are really good with that and just general communication will have the edge there. So it will be harder for maybe teams that are not the favorite to take something here with a really unconventional strategy.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I think that teams are going to pull out their best civs here. I guess I think we're going to see a lot of Huns here. We're going to see a lot of Mongols from the civ pool civs, and of course Mayans, Indians, Malians, of course. All these sorts of civs that you see played all the time in expert tournaments. I think more than any other map, like Roach was saying, this should favor the teams that are already favored. So that's why I think we actually haven't seen Arabia maybe as much as you might think in the 1v1 tournament. But yeah, definitely should just be a solid map.
For every viewer, about the civs, obviously. So it's a 3v3 event. So 2 civs will always be picked out of the civ pool, no repeat. And then we have 1 civ remaining. It's a free pick, again, no repeat. So just so we know what kind of civs can be picked. And so when we're talking about the civs now, in theory, the players will, or when it comes to it, they will have to keep in mind which civs they already picked for other maps. So that is something they, will have to think about while they draft all the civs. But we won't think about that at the moment now because we don't know which exact maps they will come up and play with. So what do you think about the second map, Mediterranean?
Well, I can bring it up. There we go. Mediterranean. It's the water map of our Middle East map pool, and oh boy, we've seen a lot of Italian mirrors on it. But I think this is it's very similar to Arabia, and then it's a very standard map. It's just full water almost all the time, especially in team games. Yeah, when you have Tim in the mix for 1v1s, you can sort of mix it up a little bit. But I think as far as team games goes, it's really going to be just full who can execute their feudal age water aggression the best, and I think that's just going to favor the teams who are most comfortable in doing that.
Yeah, for sure. Probably have a Secret and SY in there. They performed really well in the 4v4 stage where we also had Mediterranean. Or I'm not quite sure. No, it wasn't Mediterranean. It should have been Baltic, right?
Yeah.
So they played on Baltic there. And, well, both of those teams performed well. And then going to the civs, obviously we will have Italians. We've seen that in the 1v1s, but what other civs can we expect there? I mean, we have the civ pool. We need one more civ out of the civ pool, right?
Well, as any viewer of my stream knows, the single mightiest civ of all time, the Byzantines, with their powers of bloodlines or something. I think that they are actually kind of the sleeper pick here for water maps. The faster attack speed of fire galleys is, I think, not something that can be underestimated. And the they have the extra HP for their docks, so they can sort of withstand a little bit more, I guess, in possibly falling behind a little bit on water. And I think like especially as the game goes on, faster Imperial time that can of course help with a big power spike at that point. And yeah, I think that they should be a good civ as well. And as Zach is mentioning, Saracens are also going to be a good water civ. Uh, depending on what other maps are in the map pool, of course, we need to see 2 out of 3 civs. I think if Mediterranean is in the map pool, you will see Italians on this map. And I think depending on the other situations, you might see Byzantines or Saracens with their faster attacking galleys, of course, and maybe Turks.
Yeah, I guess could be possible for Turks as well. Yeah. Well, we still have the third civ, and well, we have kind of obvious choices there, right? So with Portuguese, Malay, Japanese, or Vikings. All of those civs, Japanese, for example, you could maybe pick on Dry River as well for the additional cheaper mills you have. But Japanese just at the moment a really strong water civ as well, especially with the change to the balance recently that fishing ships are now getting killed harder or it's harder for fire ships to kill fishing ships, and that makes the Japanese fishing ships so much better right now. They are basically,
They're
it's
tanks.
basically impossible. Yeah, they are a tank, 120 HP, and I'm not sure what the armor exactly is, but they just don't die. So they're a really
Six-piece
good
armor, I
pick there.
believe.
Yeah, well, pierce armor doesn't matter. I think
It doesn't
fire
matter against fire galleys, but it does matter against galleys.
That's true. That's true as well, yeah. So just in general, they survive. And then the cheaper gathering buildings, right, etc. So Japanese really strong pick, but maybe we could see Vikings again. The team bonus for the cheaper docks is nice. Vikings do have the potential now to go long boats in Castle Age, and they have really strong eco. But we do have a 3-3, and that might be a problem for them.
Yeah, I think that Vikings are like the high roll civ, right? You really don't want to get Vikings on flank. I mean, not having fire galleys is kind of a death sentence in this current metagame,
Yeah.
but having the power of the Viking pocket where you can start out with some galleys, use the power of the Viking eco to get to a fast castle age, then go into longboats, that can really, I think, prove to be pretty tricky to overcome for a lot of like other civilizations. So I feel like especially teams like Secret who are very sort of confident in their abilities to, come back even if, they get Vikings on flank or something, I think that they're probably going to be like the most likely to pick Vikings, but we'll have to see if any of the other teams take the risk.
Yeah, I can definitely see Viper going for Vikings, and if it will play out, we'll see, I guess.
Yeah, of course. So we can just move right along then to our next map, which will be Desert. This is, of
Well,
course, a map we've seen in the Africa portion of ECL, but we're seeing it again. And what do you think of this map, Roach?
it's one of my favorites in this tournament so far. We haven't seen it. It's an old map as well. I've seen it played in the best of 21 Jordan against Viper. Actually, it was a home map for Jordan back then, and I really like it because, well, for everyone who doesn't know the map, it is kind of Gold Rush. It rushy map, I guess. We also have gold in the middle. You don't have as much gold in your base. But the difference is that you don't have so many big hills and the gold is spread out in the middle of the map. So map control is extremely important, but it's not focused on one single point that you could maybe control with one castle on the hill. You control all the gold, but you have to constantly scout for the other golds if you want to deny your opponent of gold. And it just generates really active game, um, which I enjoy playing it myself and I enjoy watching it. So what do you think are civs that we would see on Desert there?
I think that Franks are going to be a really good pick. They are obviously a very good pick on Gold Rush, and for fairly similar reasons, I think they're pretty good on Desert. It's a very open map, and you have uh, the whole, castles cheaper thing, and yeah, it's need to secure control of gold in the center of the map. Of course, you want to be able to make paladins in the late game, of course. And wait, I is it replaced by Oasis? I'm just seeing that in chat.
I'm just wondering myself, yeah.
I was not
Well,
told of this.
well, the Escape Gaming website still is telling us that it is Desert, right? So,
Yeah, it was replaced by
okay, it
Oasis.
was
Says Heart.
replaced
Oh
by
boy.
Oasis.
Uh,
Well, I guess we have our first hiccup here then, right?
well, that's life. Here we don't have a graphic for Oasis, but
Well, we can still talk about
we
it,
can still
right?
talk about Oasis. Yeah, yeah. Let's just compromise and blame Robo, even though he had nothing to do with this. So Oasis, it's pretty much going to be the very closed late gamey sort of map of this map pool then, right?
Yeah, definitely. And suddenly we have a map in the whole map pool that could be really interesting for Suomi to pick, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And especially, I think they just played it in the RTSL tournament. I think Oasis is always part of the tournament. I think they were facing NC there, so they have some experience playing that map as well. And I think we might see that if it isn't banned for them.
Yeah, definitely. And I think this is going to be one of those situations where you can really start to see civs like Mongols come in, Turks come in. I think would be good. Ethiopians with their siege,
Persians have
Persian
Persians, Pocket,
paladins,
Strong Boom, Paladins, Citra.
definitely. Non-civ pool civs. Um, I mean, really, any sort of like good late game civ. Celts could make an appearance here.
Yeah,
Maybe
Burmese
Aztecs,
maybe.
Burmese.
Just in general, Elephant Civs and Burmese
Oh yeah,
also
Khmer.
great to play on the flank.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Saracens, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, pretty much any good late game civ is going to work out pretty well there. Sorry about the whole graphic mix-up, but it's all good. It's just our pilot episode, so to say. Anyway, our next map will be Bedouins, and
This one is right.
I hope this one's right. uh, this is another map that, even if it's not a standard map, it's been around forever. You have the Nomad start. It's the only map in the map pool with a Nomad start, and you have that sort of thin-ish line of trees all the way around the edge of the map, and pretty much the entire center of the map is dominated by ponds, just full of shorefish. So for that reason, I think that it's pretty clear that for the non-civ pool civs, either team will be taking either Indians or Chinese. I feel like there's no sort of leeway there.
Definitely not if you don't have either of those civs. And I mean, there's still debate. Some people say that Chinese is still a lot better. Other people say Indians, but you have to go with either of them. They just have such a big advantage. Chinese, obviously, starting with more villagers, always good in the nomad start. Then with the shorefish, you get food in so fast that you basically have a 3 villager lead from the start right on. And then Indians with their faster getting shorefish as well.
Yeah, you can have some pretty crazy good up times. Um, but for the Civ pool civs, as I obviously neither of those civs are in the Civ pool. I think that uh, if Medi is not in the map pool, Italians might be decent, just because you with the cheaper age up, it definitely helps on nomad maps where things might be a little bit more awkward. Uh, but you know, Ethiopians are going to be pretty good, just because good archers on a map that's super open, generally pretty nice to have.
Mm.
Any other civs that jump
I
out
could
to
see
you?
Turks as
Turks?
yeah, you do have the potential to go for Chinese, like have the unique unit, but you also have just in general the map. You have a lot of food, so you want to go scouts. You can produce scouts, and then once you hit Castle Age, you have Light Cav, for example. So I could see that. Other than that, I mean, you always have Persians, for example. It's a good nomad pick, but well, I think Persians is more likely if it's in the map draft than to be seen on Oasis, for example.
Yeah, definitely. I think that Persians like to boom up, and this isn't really so much of a boom map. And I feel like a lot of the
Yeah,
value of Persians on Nomad starts is that you can drop your dock right away, and because you have that extra wood, and of course you have the faster working docks and TCs, so you kind of get that
yeah.
double bonus. But on Bedouins, you don't have enough water to dock, so I feel like that's not as useful.
Also, I could see, for example, if you, but I mean, that's obviously a lot of ifs, but if you play with Turks, for example, and you have, it kind of often happens that you have 2 players of different teams relatively close to each other. So a Turk player could try to start some kind of a sling, right, with a faster
Mm-hmm.
gold gathering, and then try to overwhelm one of the opponent players really fast. But as I said, that's a lot of ifs. Um, a great map in my opinion. I like to watch it because it has a different start, and well, obviously leads to different approaches as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think Bedouins has always been a pretty interesting map, and I'm glad it's in the pool here.
Yep.
But moving on to High Grass Doubt with kind of the upside down mushroom shape graphic on the forest. Uh, I've always compared this map to an inverted arena with palisade walls instead of stone walls, because you kind of have the forest in the center of the map, as well instead of the outside of the map with just some sparse scattered trees, no hills or anything. At least I think so. And you can see the potential in the late game for chopping through with onagers or trebuchets, I guess. See some towers potentially. What do you think of this kind of wonkier looking map?
Well, we do need to keep in mind that it doesn't look exactly like that in a 3v3. Obviously, it will be more spread out, so we don't have that one really long part of the map that is the thinner part of the forest, I guess. But as you said, cutting through is a good option. We've just seen in the 1v1 event, Tato doing it against Backed on that map.
That was a
Tato
great
lost
game.
in the end, but it was a good move. He suddenly killed a lot of eco of Backed that way because it was unexpected. So definitely really good option to do, especially in team games when you have trade. And if you suddenly cut and you get some kind of fast mobile unit into the trade of your opponent, that can change the whole game there. Um, Again, more of a late game map. You do see some kind of castle age aggression from time to time, or even towers could be an option with some civilizations, as you only have palisade walls. But it's not a must, as you do have the walls, and it depends where the resources spawn. So, what kind of civs would you pick on that map? What would you expect there?
Well, I think that you can kind of think of this map fairly similarly to Oasis. As you can see, there's the big old chunk of wood in the middle of the map that you can kind of just wall to the edge of the map, at least a
Yeah,
lot of the time. And so I think pretty much any sort of civ that we said for Oasis is also good here. Though I think that it's a little bit less safe for the pocket, perhaps, because you do have that, sort of chopping through the center forest potential. But still, I mean, I think, Ethiopians, Persians, Turks, Saracens, all those guys should be pretty good for map pool civs.
yeah, makes sense to me. Well, I guess, and then we have one of the maps coming up that was part of the map contest, actually, winner of the map contest for, I'm not sure which one it actually won, if it won Africa or Middle East, because it won one of those and then replaced one of the maps actually, and that is a dry river, as we were talking about it earlier, lots of shorefish in the middle. And with that map, actually all the players spawn in one line of every team. So that has some really interesting, results in the end. For example, you do have all the players being relatively far from each other in a 3v3. That's not a short rushing distance there. It will be interesting to see how the game will be affected by that.
Yeah, I've seen a few team games on this map, just casting random rated games.
Hmm.
And that, yeah, like Roach was saying, it's really interesting because the players are physically very far away from each other, at least as far as a standard map is concerned. But because you have that large dry riverbed in the center of the map with all of the shorefish, you're sort of you know incentivized for aggression. So it's kind of like this. It's very aggressive, but it also has that real potential to go to the far far late game. As you guys can see, it's pretty straightforward in terms of just establishing markets, and everyone has their own like third of the map that they can kind of defend. So yeah, I think it's a really interesting map for team games in particular.
No, two things. I 2 points, I guess, I have on my mind. For example, we saw of the first point is we saw a lot of man-at-arms aggression actually in the 1v1s because of the longer rushing distance. I think we will see more scouts now, especially that it's team games as well. I think it will be scouts and archers, but maybe it doesn't matter as much where your civ is positioned. You could go archers from the pocket as well. It's not ideal, obviously, but I think that it could work out. And the other thing is, we were just talking about the game earlier, right? Tattoo against Bact, and that wood was running out in the end. And I think that could be a huge problem in the team games as well, if it goes for late game.
Oh
Could be
yeah, I'm
really,
just
really,
reminded again of AM versus Suomi on Serengeti where the map ran out of
yeah,
wood. But yeah, I mean, we saw the map run out of wood in Tato versus Bact in the grand finals of Middle East 1v1. So yeah, I think this is one of the most interesting maps to me for team games. Uh, any standout civs for you as far as this map goes?
Well, again, Indians. So I think that might be a reason why if we have, for example, this map and Bedouins in the map pool, teams might go for Chinese on Bedouins and then Indians here on Dry River. Then if you don't have Arabia, Hans is a really great option here as well. I myself, I think Mongols is quite nice as well. I mean, it is in the Civ pool as well. It's a fast Civ. You can have a fast uptime scouts, and you could even go Cav archers with Mongols, in my opinion. But well, it really depends what other civs, what other options you have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that because this map has such long distances between the teams and it is very open on top of it, any sort of fast unit is going to be really,
Hmm.
really, I think, disproportionately good. So I think that kind of different from the 1v1 where it's kind of like a big push across the middle of the map where you saw a lot of Byzantines played, especially from Bact.
Yeah.
I think you won't see Byzantines here in team games because it's all going to be running around the dry riverbed back and forth, really going to be favoring like you were saying those faster civs. Maybe like Turks here as well for the cav archers might be another possibility.
Yeah, true. It could work out. But yeah, I don't expect to see Byzantines as much as we saw in the 1v1s, but I still think it would be an option to go
Oh
for
yeah.
them. Um, but for sure, yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I hope, as we see on this map screenshot, the small isles of acacia trees, they are very favored to one side. I hope that doesn't happen too much because that can really, really play a huge role in the late game of where, well, if you run out of wood, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So I
definitely.
hope we don't see that too much, that it is favored that much to one side. I'm not quite sure how the map script works. Maybe it is actually balanced out with the rest of the wood on the map, but I don't think so. So hope that won't come into play too much there.
Yeah, and it probably won't. But anyway, moving on to last but certainly not least, the map I am most excited to see, and I'm sure that most of the experts are least excited to play. Uh, it's Sunburn. It's a crazy map. It won the map contest. What do you think about it, Roach?
I am really not sure what to think about it actually. I haven't seen that many games on it. I mean, Tattoo played against Nikov 1v1. That was interesting, but I felt it was still very standard and it was a 1v1 still. And I haven't seen any team games yet. So, well, as everyone can say, you spawn in one line in this on these line of trees, but in team games it's the exact same. So basically you have one super pocket, one in between pocket and flank, and then one super flank, I guess. And that will be really, really interesting. I wonder how much the um, the placement of the different civilizations will play a role here. What do you think there?
I think that, yeah, that's going to be, I think, incredibly important for this map. But I have actually cast a grand total of 2 team games on this map. Um, and both were incredibly crazy. I remember I think it was the first game I ever cast on this map. It was just a random rated game, but I think it was like Suomi versus various Chinese players, and I think it was like
Okay.
Vivi never got to. He lost his starting TC like 4 different times before getting to the castle age because he was on the super flank. It was pretty crazy.
Oh gosh.
But yeah, I think as you're mentioning, civ positions will matter a lot. I think that Franks are going to be incredibly good on this map, especially if you can get them in like the super Omega pocket position,
Oh yeah,
because you
with
do have two
berries.
berries as opposed to one. So kind of like Land Madness, if you guys have been watching the NAC2 qualifiers. Uh, Extra berries means Franks are very happy, and of course scouts in that position are going to be quite good. Though maybe we'll actually be seeing some fast castles from those like super pockets. So yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting. Oh, is it three berries?
Yeah, it is actually three berries true. It's always two and one on the other side, yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then we also have the elephants that are far out on the side. So let's see, maybe some of the teams will come up with a strategy for that in team games. I
Easy goth pick.
don't. Yeah, exactly. I think Berbers might be nice. I'm not sure how far away. Well, in 3v3, the elephants probably spawn too far away, right? Because otherwise you could maybe get with some additional elephants in with Berbers because their villagers walk faster.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty cool idea. Yeah, I'm not. I would need to like load up some map generations and see if
Yeah.
you can reliably get some elephants. At least within decent range. But Berbers can
Hmm.
lure elephants from many miles away. So
Basically, yeah.
or kilometers if you're don't use freedom units. Um, but yeah, it's I think really interesting. We don't really know a whole lot about this map. We didn't see it a whole ton in the 1v1s, but I'm definitely pretty excited. Do
Yeah.
you have any like last thoughts on this map pool before we move on?
Well, just on this map, as a last thought, that civs that and not civs teams that prepare
Oh yeah.
will be favorites here. You need to prepare something. Not only think, okay, I played it in 1v1s, that will be the same for team games because it should be vastly different there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just really excited to cast these games. They are, only going to be a couple days, and I think that this map pool is very diverse, very interesting, and I think we can see a lot of really good games here.
Yep. Looking forward to it. I
Y-
really am.
Yep. So with that, we will move on towards our final thoughts. Yeah, I saw Sir Lawrence. Thanks. But yeah, what are your final thoughts here on this upcoming Middle East 3v3?
Well, I guess final thought to the 1v1 as well.
Yeah.
It was really good to see a really high level and competitive 1v1 without the Viper being in there. I think that was good to see some different people in the finals for once, and then back to winning the whole thing. And yeah, then the 3v3. Um, as I said before, I'm really looking forward to it. We have such a versatile map pool there, and 3v3 just in general is such a interesting format, right? With, as you said before yourself, with the pocket that has to decide which way to go and where to spend the resources, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it should be really interesting. I really enjoyed the Africa 3v3, so I think that this should be a really fun tournament coming up. And yeah, I mean, Middle East 1v1 definitely I think was a lot more fun than the Europe East 1v1 because everyone's kind of now a lot more comfortable, a lot more, familiar with how ECL works. So I thought that was a really fun tournament. And yeah, should be really fun to see what's coming up. So,
Yeah.
with that, we will have a you know brief Q and A session. So if you guys have any questions in the chat, you can just ask them.
Well, I guess the first question already to the webcam. I don't have one today, but I will have one in the future, so you can look forward to that. Definitely come back just to check that out.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, this is obviously our first sort of pilot of this podcast, so sorry about the little technical hiccups, but yeah, it's a little bit of a learning process.
Yeah. Well, and we also should probably promote the whole thing a little bit earlier next time, not just on the same day, but it was all kind of last minute that we managed to get it in today. I will be out of town later this week, and we obviously need to get the podcast in if we're talking about the a preview of the 3v3 before the 3v3, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so sorry this is all kind of last minute, guys, but we figured that last minute podcast is better than no podcast.
Yeah. And yeah, I think it went well. Okay, some questions here. I guess that one is for you. There's a question for you
Oh
from
yeah.
Panther Wang.
Yeah. I try to ignore him whenever possible.
Yeah, it seemed like some kind of troll.
Oh yeah, I have a lamp behind my head that's not very pretty that I'm kind of stuck with.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I need to figure something out as well once I get a webcam for my background.
Yeah, just kind of the corner of my room. Got a map of Asia. That's pretty cool, but not that exciting, unfortunately.
Well, maps are always cool in theory, right?
Oh yeah, I mean we were just talking about them, right? Cap,
True.
cap.
Not like this.
Not like this. Do we know who's playing in the matchups? No, we do not, Zubaz. For the 3v3s and 4v4s, you can mix and match any players you want. Otherwise, we definitely would have talked about them. Yeah, we can show the bracket again.
Well, Faultier, we were talking about that earlier. For me, it's frantic, actually. They played so well in the 3v3 Africa stage, and Team CL and VV is such a strong combination of players, and I actually think they might take this one. We were doing some kind of predictions earlier, and I was actually going with Frantic there. So let's hope they win this, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think that a Secret Frantic Finals should be pretty great if that happens, though, of course, I did predict Secret, so obviously they're going to win. Easy game.
Well, yeah, I guess then we need a Frantic Secret final, right? To
Oh, yeah.
see who had the right prediction there.
Miguel, the best team game player? I think you can say he's top 5. I don't think you can say he's definitively the best. I think that, you know, I'd say that players like Viper, Doubt, uh, Miguel, Max. I'm probably just like missing obvious people. Yo.
I won't even try to help you there because I will just miss people myself. So it's just on you that way. Neely obviously giving some Neely energy for his own team there.
Oh
Let's
yeah,
see if
sorry.
you
Nilly, the
if
single best
Neely
team
will
game player.
actually.
Heresy, very favored to win the entire event. Easy.
Yeah, let's see if they will actually field him then, right? Or if they just think they can get the whole thing by themselves without getting Neely on the map there.
You know, keep Nilly away, right?
The Grey Warrior, it was a review and a preview, but you're right, we need to change up the title for the future and the overlay a bit.
Yeah.
We had the review prepared, but that will change. It was all a bit last minute, so we will have some changes.
Yeah. We'll update the graphics for the future events, but yeah. Again, this was all kind of last minute, so we did with what we could. And it will start on Saturday, 14 GMT, here on EscapeAoE.
Be there.
Yeah. So
Well,
I think that should be a good roundup for this first podcast. Hope you guys all enjoyed it. I know I enjoyed it. Had some fun chatting with you, Roach.
oh, for sure, yeah.
Why don't you let people know where they can follow you?
Well, if they want to follow me, they can actually follow my Twitch. It's just twitch.tv/Roechelrochen. I guess I could just type something in chat so they can click on my name because I guess people don't actually know some people actually don't know how to spell the name. And I do stream from time to time. I don't stream regularly, but if I do, I mainly cast smaller tournaments from our community where I'm involved in myself. So most of the time, nothing high level, or I just play 1v1s or 2v2s myself.
Yeah. You should stream more. Everyone go follow
I,
Roach. He's a great guy.
Well, and you should also check out Onlu.
Or
Definitely
not.
do that.
Yeah. You can follow me at OrnluAoE. I'll message in chat as well. Yeah, I stream actually pretty frequently, 3 to 4 days a week, as much as I can, pending school. So, usually casting whatever expert games are going on, just hanging out. Of course, I cast pretty much every single ECL event too, whether it be here on Escape, where I am sometimes, or if not, I'll be on my own channel. So if you enjoy my endless rambling, you can go follow me there. But yeah, also just want to give a quick shout out to Zach, who is as EscapeAoE in chat, for helping us set this up. It was
Yep.
definitely couldn't have done that without you, man. And of course, Sir Lawrence for the graphics. Appreciate that. And one last thing. NAC2 and KOTT2 are coming up. Should go check that out. Nilly and Mem, their tournaments respectively. Go watch those. They're great. And I think that should be it for us. Go find someone to host. And thanks so much everyone for watching.
Yep. Thanks for stopping by, guys, and see you around next time.